There's a moment that comes to everyone. You've been wronged, betrayed, misunderstood, and your first instinct is to explain, to justify, to make them see your side of the story. You rehearse the words in your head 1,000 times. You imagine the conversation. You practice the perfect way to finally make them understand. And you never do it, because deep down, you already know the truth. No amount of words will change their mind. But you can't accept that. So you stay. You repeat yourself. You defend yourself. You slowly disintegrate trying to convince someone who was never listening to begin with. This is the trap that destroys people. This is the cage we build for ourselves. Niccolò Machiavelli understood something that most people spend their entire lives trying to learn. He understood that the most powerful people in the world are not the ones who talk the most. They're the ones who know when to be silent. They're the ones who can walk away without needing to explain themselves. Not because they're cold or cruel, but because they've learned a brutal truth. The moment you feel the need to justify your actions to someone, you've already given them power over you. You've made yourself their prisoner. Think about the relationships that haunt you. Not the ones where you had a clean break or a final conversation that brought closure. The ones that haunt you are the ones where you were never able to say what you needed to say, where you felt misunderstood, where you wanted so desperately to make them see the real you, and you couldn't. That void never closed. That ache never healed. You spent sleepless nights playing out conversations that would never happen, defending yourself to someone who wasn't even listening. This is the cruelty of needing approval from people incapable of giving it. What Machiavelli knew, and what very few people understand today, is that silence is not weakness. Silence is the ultimate power move. When you stop explaining, when you stop defending, when you simply walk away without a word, you reclaim something that was taken from you. Control. You stop being a puppet dancing for their validation. You become the one holding the strings. Look at the people you admire, the ones who seem untouchable, the ones who carry a quiet confidence. They don't explain themselves constantly. They don't seek permission. They don't need your approval to know their own worth. There's something almost magnetic about someone who can walk through criticism, betrayal, and misunderstanding without cracking, without breaking down, without reaching out to defend themselves. That's not arrogance. That's freedom. But here's what makes this so hard to do. We are wired to connect. We are desperate to be understood, to be seen, to be believed. We mistake being understood with being loved. We think that if we can just explain enough, justify enough, show them the real version of us, they'll finally get it. They'll finally approve. And that need is so primal, so ancient, that it overrides our instinct to protect ourselves. So we keep talking, we keep explaining, we keep reaching for people who are reaching away from us. And every time they reject our explanation, it feels like they're rejecting us. The people who hurt you the most are the ones who got you to believe that you owed them an explanation. They got you to believe that their confusion about your actions was your responsibility to fix, that their pain at your departure was something you needed to soothe, that their stories about you, their interpretations, their anger, all of that was something you needed to correct with your words. They convinced you that you were the problem. And so you stayed, explaining yourself into exhaustion. This is manipulation. This is exactly what Machiavelli observed in power dynamics. The person who can make you feel like you owe them something has already won. The person who can make you feel guilty for leaving, for choosing yourself, for saying no, they have already seized control of your mind. And the only way to break that is to refuse to play the game, to walk away, to not explain, to not justify, to simply be gone and mean it. There's a scene that happens in almost every broken relationship. One person says, "Just tell me the truth. That's all I want. I deserve an explanation." And the other person believes them. They think, yes, they deserve to know, they deserve to understand. So they give it. They explain every reason, every pain, every moment that led to this. And what happens? The explanation becomes ammunition. It becomes a story they tell about you, a narrative they control. They twist your truth into something unrecognizable. They use your honesty against you. And you've learned too late that some people don't want the truth. They want the fight. They want the engagement. They want you to stay in the ring with them, bleeding, explaining, defending. Machiavelli wrote about this in a different language, a different time. But the principle is the same. The truly powerful person understands that not every conflict deserves your attention. Not every accusation deserves a response. Not every person deserves access to your inner world. The ones who get power are the ones who can maintain mystery, who can hold their ground without needing to defend it with words, who can let rumors fly without correcting them, who can be hated by someone and remain completely unbothered. We think of silence as passive. We think of walking away as running. We think of not explaining as avoidance or guilt. But the opposite is true. When you explain yourself to someone who didn't ask in good faith, you're not achieving clarity. You're not achieving connection. You're achieving the exact opposite. You're validating their right to interrogate you. You're teaching them that if they push hard enough, if they guilt-trip you enough, if they make you feel bad enough, you'll perform for them. The power of walking away without a word is this. It says, I am not available for this. I do not need your approval. I am not going to spend my energy trying to convince you of my worth. And that message, delivered in silence, is louder than any explanation could ever be. Because it means something. It means you've reached a point where your peace is more important than their understanding, where your life is more important than their narrative about you, where your freedom is worth more than their approval. Think about the people who've walked away from you without explanation. It hurts, right? It's one of the most agonizing experiences, and it hurts precisely because it works. Because you're left in the void, creating your own stories, desperate to understand what you did wrong. The silence becomes louder than any words could be. The absence becomes more powerful than any presence. They've moved on. They've chosen themselves. And you're left holding the weight of the unanswered question. This is power. This is not about being cruel. This is not about hurting people. This is about protecting yourself from people who have already shown you what they are. You can only be betrayed by someone you trusted. You can only be misunderstood by someone you were trying to reach. The moment you realize that someone is not worth reaching, you become free. You stop explaining, not because you're wrong, but because you're done performing. The hardest lesson is this. Not everyone deserves an explanation. Not everyone deserves your honesty. Not everyone deserves access to your truth. Some people have shown you through their actions that they will use whatever you tell them against you, that they're more interested in being right than in understanding, that they've already made up their mind about who you are, and your job is not to change their mind. Your job is to protect your peace. Walking away without a word is the ultimate act of self-respect. It's saying no to the endless game of explaining. It's refusing to make yourself small for someone else's comfort. It's accepting that some people will misunderstand you, will believe lies about you, will paint you as the villain in their story, and you're going to be okay with that, because you know the truth. And the truth doesn't need witnesses, it doesn't need validation, it just needs you. The most powerful people in history understood this. They didn't waste breath on every critic. They didn't engage with every accusation. They moved forward with absolute certainty in their direction, and people sensed that. People felt it. There was nothing to explain because the person was so clearly committed to their own path that explanation became irrelevant. So the question becomes, what are you waiting for? What words are you still trying to say to someone who has already made up their mind? What conversation are you still rehearsing in your head? What explanation are you still desperate to deliver? Let it go, not because you're wrong, not because they deserve forgiveness, but because you deserve to be free. You deserve a life that doesn't revolve around someone else's perception of you. You deserve to walk away and never look back, carrying your truth inside you like a secret that belongs only to you. That's the power. That's the lesson. That's the freedom that comes when you finally understand that your worth was never dependent on anyone else's understanding of it.